let's first create a base for this pendant, and for this I'm taking a piece of scrap clay and another piece of black, on which I put a few pieces of ultramarine, and then I just ran it through the pasta machine until I obtained some kind of pattern on it that looks a little bit like nightly something night. Anyway, just press your piece of black on a thin setting on the piece of scrap clay, and then place some cling wrap over it and cut with your cutter so that you will get nice rounded edges. Now that is out of the way, and don't worry about the very edges, that's easily sandable. It only takes a couple swipes of sandpaper to fix that. Let's put a little bit of glitter, and I'm using here one of American Body Art's beautiful glitters. You can find the link in the video description. And I'm going to put some, but only on the top left side, because the rest of the pendant will be covered with the flowers, so I don't really need any glitter to be there. And then I will always also add at this stage some vines, and for this I'm getting some jungle and just making very thin strings out of it, and I will be placing them on the pendant. And why I'm doing this right now, because it's much harder to attach to baked clay strings. It's much easier to attach thin strings of raw clay to raw clay than to already baked clay. So just attach them randomly. Think that it has to look exactly how the morning glories throw their vines out to climb on things. Don't place too many of them, and think about the fact that pretty much mostly just the ends will be noticeable. Everything else will be pretty much covered by flowers and leaves. So once you are done with that, it is time for us to do the back and the bezel. And for this you can use any texture that is flowery. I will put a link in the description also for this texturing pin. And the clay is on a medium setting, not on a thick one, because I don't need my pendant to be super thick. And of course I place some Bacon Bond on the back of the pendant, and then I will be attaching the backing to it. Just trim roughly the excess clay. And then use your X-Acto knife to trim nicely, because at this point you can do a very good job trimming everything pretty much flush. And then use your roller to gently smooth out the edges of the backing, texturized backing clay. Then I will be using one of those rods that I was telling you about in previous tutorials, and you can get these at any home improvement store, and they are anywhere from under $1 to like $5 at most a piece. It depends on the size of the length of the rod, the diameter of the rod, and the thread it has. The larger, the more expensive. This one I think I paid like 70 cents for. Then cut some strips, and your clay has to be on a medium thin setting. Cut some strips that would be as wide as your pendant is wide. Place some bacon bond on the edge and then attach your strips. Make sure that you match nicely any edges. I'm sorry, I went a little bit off camera there. I'm going to try and get myself in line, but as you can see, you need to match your edges nicely. This is very important when you have this type of bezel. You don't want those lines to go all over the place. You want them to be seamless. Now, while that is baking, let me show you a little bit how you can reduce a 5-sided pentagonal cane. As you can see, I'm practically working on only 3 sides at a time, but I am turning it around, and that ensures the cane being reduced equally on all sides. You can also put it on your tile and work on only 2 sides at a time, permanently rotating the cane. This will also not allow the clay to push out from the center. For this I am taking some green pearl and some jungle, and you don't need a whole bunch of it. As you can see, it's less than half of a 1.5 inches square cutter, and make a quick and easy skinner blend. It doesn't even have to be perfectly blended. As long as you have a little bit of a gradient there. And as you can see, I'm not going even in the machine with it. I'm just doing it by hand. It's very quick and easy to do it. Once you are happy with how your gradient looks, just put it into a little cubic type plug, and then get a little bit more of that jungle and put it through the machine on a very thin setting, and simply create a few veins in your little cubic plug. That is just cut 3 lines and then place some of that very thin jungle in between. And reduce that pretty much tear-shaped, and reduce it enough that you can cut it in 2. You can go reducing round, it's up to you, because all you'll have to do is to cut it in 2 and then put the halves together with another piece of the jungle right in the middle to create the leaf. Remember, the morning glory leaves are pretty much heart-shaped almost, so you'll have a fairly roundish leaf with a little bit of a pinch towards the end, so on the side opposite to the side that has the most light green. But you can reduce it first round as it is, and only when you get to the size that you desire, you can go ahead and just pinch that edge that is opposite to the part that has the most light green. Okay, before doing anything else, let's put some metallic wax on the back and on the sides. I'm using the old silver of our Art Alchemy, and I will put the link in the description. And why we do that? Because we need that to harden, so that when we start working on the flowers, it will not come off. And you kind of need to put it on now, because it's much harder to put it on afterwards, where you already have some of the flowers getting over the edge. And as you can see, I'm using my shaping tool to make sure that I get that metallic wax all the way in all the nooks and crannies, not where I have the thread, but between that bezel and the main body of the pendant. And then wait for like 10-15 minutes for the wax to completely harden, and buff it with a soft cloth before going forward. Now for the next step, you can use any pointy bottle cap that you have, and that will be to shape the morning glory flowers. First, of course, you'll have to cut slices from your canes. As you can see, I reduced the canes to just a pinch under 1 centimeter. When you cut, make sure that your cane rests on one of the sides, and keep rolling it around so it will not get deformed as you cut. So get enough slices, as many flowers as you want to put on your pendant, and then also get some slices of leaf. Then prepare a few dots of clay using the remnants from the ends of the leaf cane, and put some dots of bacon bond on the pendant where you want to place your leaves and flowers. As I said, I planned on putting everything on the right half of my pendant and more heavily towards the bottom. So I will be placing all those little dots on the dots of bacon bond, and that is so I can place safely my leaves and flowers on the baked pendant without having to put all kinds of tiny amounts of bacon bond, and without risking for my flowers and leaves to come off. Flatten a little bit the dots, and then first place your leaves. You might want to shape the leaves a little bit with a ball stylus to round them up, so they won't be completely flat, because the morning glory leaves are a little bit domed as they are climbing stuff. And simply place them with the bright light green towards the center, and position them in place using your ball stylus to press a little bit on those little balls of clay that you have placed there. Try to place leaves all around the area where you will be placing flowers. As I said, your vines that you have placed prior to doing anything else, the ends of the vines will be showing, but otherwise try to have the whole area of the flowers circled underneath by leaves. Now let's shape our flowers. As you can see, I am positioning the slices on top of my pointy bottle cap so that I can pinch them in place and kind of bell shape them. Not exactly bell shape them, but get them a little bit conical. And you can gently pinch the very middle. That will help with them holding that shape much better. And prepare all your slices like this before starting to place them on your pendant. And now let's place them. I will be placing some of them on the little balls of clay, some of them on the leaves. And I'm going to try and not place two flowers of the same color one near the other as much as possible. And I just realized that I want to place that lavender one a little bit on top of the other ones, because the morning glories are very, very rebellious and very random, and they would start trying to choke each other sometimes. So you want to imitate that arrangement of the blooms. And now let's make some tiny dots of yellow. I actually had some scrap yellow laying on my table, and place them right in the very middle of the flowers. After which we bake. Now we need a little bit of shininess, we don't need glossiness, but right now it's a little bit too dull. So your cheapest variant would be the satin scalpy glaze. Your more expensive variant would be the golden satin, or more expensive satin varnishes like Minwax or even Varathane. But you want satin, you don't want gloss. I know it looks glossy, but as it dries, it will become a little bit duller, and it will look pretty much like regular leaves and flowers look like. And remember, when you have a satin finish, you always must stir really good the liquid, because the satiny part rests on the bottom. If you don't stir it, it will be glossy. Then once we have the varnish harden up, dry up, you can buff that wax a little bit more with a cloth. And then all we have to do is to attach a pinch bail. So for that, I'm going first to poke some direction holes. You only need to go in for not even a 1 millimeter, and that is to avoid the clay cracking when you pinch on the bail. Then open up your bale very slowly and carefully so it wouldn't snap. And then place it in place with the pins going through the direction holes. And gently push it together with your fingers first, and then very carefully use the pliers. Don't press too hard or you might break the polymer clay. And there you go, a pretty morning glories pendant. Happy claying!